Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast Island Echoes. I'm your host, Al Ebanks. We're switching things up just a little bit. We're now including video in our podcast series. And I'm coming to you from the bird sanctuary here in the deep root of Barkers. So a couple of weeks back, there was a demonstration just on the shoreline here in Barkers under the call of Save Barkers. And this is what the demonstrators have to say. As a quick disclaimer, some of the interviewees in this episode had announced their intentions to run in the next election, and this is not an endorsement.
Hi, my name is Elissa. I have a horse business out here on Barkas. It's called K-Manyiha. We love it out here.
Good morning, all. This is Jermaine Ebanks, Hurlson of West Bay. We're here today to try and bring some news and also be supportive for the effort of trying to save Barkers.
Good morning. My name is Rolston Anglin, West Bear, proud West Bear, accountant, father, former member of Parliament.
Yeah, I guess the first question is like, why did you decide that this was important to have this conversation right now? And
I mean, we've had assumptions that this was in dealings for years, and again, I'll be completely honest. I didn't know the full details until this morning about the history of it, which I'm very appreciative of. But this location means not just a lot to me; it means a lot to all locals, whether you're from East End or North Side or wherever. You're free to come here, camp out, make memories with your family, and this is a tradition for us. On Easter time, you come here any time of the year. There's tents and campsites as far as I can see. For me personally, what really triggered me is the fact that I spend my Sundays up here with my family, my dogs, and to even say, well, this is no longer going to be an option for me, then where else can we go and walk freely without being, looked at or made to feel like as though we don't belong in that area? So I think it's just important for us to look at things from a logical standpoint and really do our best to preserve what we can.
Well, Barkers Beach and the preservation of Barkers Beach is something that's very important to us, not only as a district, but as an island. I think a lot of times we see these as West Bay or West Bay North issues. This is a Cayman issue because Barkers Beach is something that whilst West Bayers will use it because it's in our district, it's a national resource. And the issues that we face here, we're going to face in other beaches and other places as well. So why not ensure that we have a voice and we understand what people's concerns are?
So I really wanted to come out today because it was important that we all come together as one to show our support and make sure that Barkas can stay secure for, as I mentioned, our future generations, because the island is getting very commercialized, and this is one of the last pieces that are so precious to us that we have left. So it's important to show our support and come out here and do everything we can to keep Barkas as Barkas.
what would you want the government to do immediately to remedy this?
I think we definitely need to definitely start having those discussions, those tough discussions, when it comes to how we can, obtain the property. Because again, I think long term, it's going to be beneficial to us all. If you are just focusing on the aspect of funds, that's not the only important thing right now. I think the environment plays a huge role in how we are going to evolve and how we're going to be able to live comfortably years from now. So again, the environment is also a very important factor here as to why we're here today.
Well, I don't know what the balance is currently in the Environmental Protection Fund. But certainly we should be looking at the Environmental Protection Fund and seeing what lands we can acquire, what sensitive lands, some of which would include places like Barkers Beach. Now, of course, there's going to be the old adage that for every purchase, you need a willing buyer and a willing seller. But I do believe that there is enough other areas that government may have lands owned in that will be of interest to owners here, whether they be the Dart Group or others, that could provide a value proposition. I just believe that we need to be very, very mindful of the price that we're going to pay for anything that we acquire when we're going to do something called a land swap.
Well, I think that if I'm being honest, government is not focused on the right things down here. I think a lot of things are money driven and we're losing the passion for our culture, our island. We're forgetting about the real Cayman. You know, a lot of us are not, but the government is not focusing on that. And other people coming here are not going to get that experience that they should and see an island for what it is. We're not a city, we are an island, and people come here for that. And then as a Caymanian that lives here, you know, we want to feel that real island life and local living, and we want to share that with everybody, you know? So I think the government really needs to focus on what we already have instead of focusing on things we don't need.
Hearing the responses from these demonstrators during this event has left me with more questions. Why has the responsibility of protecting barkers have been tossed from administration to administration? How do we decide as the Cayman Islands what land is of national importance? And lastly, how do we get here in the first place? So let's start from the beginning of how barkers has evolved to what it is now. You're probably wondering, how did barkers get its name? Historically, there were people in the community that would take the bark from the red mangroves and use it to extract dye, which was normally used for dyeing leather. In addition, barkers provided valuable resources like its mahogany trees, which were used for the early settlers to build their homes, as well as the infamous catboat. This area also served as safe harbor for sailors, Easter campers, as well, unfortunately, an informal dumping site. Beyond its historical and recreational uses, barkers is an ecological treasure trove. This area is home to the endemic blue pygmy butterfly, one of the smallest butterflies found in the world, and you can find it right here in barkers. The mangrove ecosystems of barkers provide critical services both to nature and local communities. They act as a nursery for juvenile fish, sheltering marine species that eventually populate our coral reefs and contribute to Cayman's fishing practices. They are vital in combating coastal erosion, protecting our shoreline from the storm surges and rising sea levels. They are a natural carbon sink, playing a vital role in mitigating climate change. The balance between human use and ecological preservation is under threat from overdevelopment. A looming problem and challenge we're facing daily with proposed real estate projects infringe on this delicate balance. And a delay in implementing comprehensive protective measures despite promises made in the past, which we will get into, has left critical habitat vulnerable for exploitation and degradation. Barkers has provided for a generation of Caymanians, reflecting both our dependence as well as our neglect for our natural spaces. Establishing a protected park at Barkers has been a multi-decade struggle. In the late 1990s, the government started to work on Vision 2008, a comprehensive national strategic development plan for the Cayman Islands. In this document included Strategy 11 to protect the natural environment, particularly the central mangrove wetlands, the North Sound, and coral reefs from further degradation. Although Barkers was not directly mentioned in this strategic plan, this sparked the first discussions of Barkers becoming a national park as it fit into the overall strategy. The original proposal stated, "The Barkers Peninsula area is ill-suited to conventional real estate development due to its narrowness and presence of significant amount of environmentally sensitive mangrove wetland. On the other hand, the area is an outstanding natural recreation area." The DOE was given funding by the British government to make a feasibility study for the park in 2001. A year later, legislation was put forward to establish it. The proposed park would have incorporated 276 acres of land, which included sensitive mangrove forests along with the northern beach coast. And in 2003, Prince Edward attended a dedication ceremony for the park. Even though the park has been open, most of the land was still privately owned, with majority owner being Dart Holdings. In 2004, the government spent $1.3 million on purchasing property in the area using funds from the Environmental Protection Fund. However, still presently, only little more than a third of the proposed park is Crown land. At the time, there was a heated debate about using compulsory acquisitions to purchase the remaining property, but it was also deemed not necessary as the majority stakeholders were in agreement with the vision. This changed in 2012 when the agreement between DART and the government sparked the DOE to write a report in response. It's said that the majority of the interior and beachfront land traditionally used for recreation has been removed and it is slated for private ownership, and that the agreement was radically different from that developed in partnership with the public by DOE. This report is not available online anymore, but is mentioned in a 2018 article from the Cayman Compass. For the last 13 years, the situation has remained mostly the same, with the park being fractured and DART keeping its holdings as a bargaining chip for future, now looking more like the present concessions. The responsibility of making Barkers a national park has been passed on from administration to administration for three interconnected reasons, each underscoring systemic challenges in how each government prioritizes and protects natural spaces such as Barkers. Lack of a strategic development plan that values environmentally sensitive areas and places of recreation. While successive administrations have implemented plans, they often prioritize economic growth over environmental conservation. The lack of following through on a long-term strategy that safeguards sensitive areas like Barkers and the lack of foresight has resulted in fragmented efforts to protect Barkers. The mindset is that politicians favor infrastructure over natural spaces. Their focus tends to be surrounded around infrastructure projects that provide immediate, visible results like roads. We do compulsory purchases for critical infrastructures such as roads, but do not treat environmentally protected areas in the same way. Barkers has provided long-term benefits to the community, including surrounding businesses that participate in ecotourism, which is often sidelined. And lastly, the societal mindset that profit of property should always be maximized without considering the value that it has. Real estate is one of the most lucrative sectors in our economy, and land is often viewed as an investment. And it is with this mindset that the emphasis is only on short-term economic value gains instead of the long-term collective value we all receive. Our inhibitions of not treating environments that still have economic value just because it doesn't have direct monetary gain makes it difficult to make national protected areas. Land has many reasons that we determine to be valued at a national level. It could be because it's a good place for recreation, its environmental sensitivity, or its historical significance. It could be because it's a commons, a place for people to share and make their livelihoods from. All of these are good reasons for land to be considered of national importance and to be protected, but it's not the reason they are. Ultimately, we decide when the place is important, and we, the people, say so and treat it as such.
What does having a protected Barkers mean to you?
Well, what protected Barkers means enjoyment for future generations. I mean, if you look at this young child coming here just behind you, riding on a horse, and that is what it means to me, right? What it means to me is the ability for the public to get use of a beach that has been something that has been used for decades. Then if you go inland, it means preserving very, very sensitive natural habitat. So, I mean, you go from the coastline where you have beachfront property that the public would be able to use, and you go inland, you got sensitive lands that need to be protected.
It means a lot. It means a lot for many different things. It's a very important area for the ecosystem. Many people don't realize this, but this was actually the first Cayman turtle farm in the late 1500s, right? And that's where you also had the issue with the bring about of Stingray City, because all the fishermen were in close proximity to the area. But this was actually a holding area at one point many years ago for holding turtles before the actual turtle farm came online. So again, it just means so much from an environmental level, but also a social level as well.
I think that having this protected will be great for hundreds of years to come from now, before we have nothing left. Also, like, we've got habitats out here, like the turtles, they come and lay their eggs. We've got fish out here, all sorts of stuff. This is a protective area that needs to stay protected. And, cruise ship people don't want to come down here. We have 7 Mile for that, which has already been overpopulated, that even visitors find a hard time enjoying because it's so much going on. Down here, we've got so much space. You can find peace out here. It's just important that we keep things sacred. instead of losing all that, you know?
If you would like to get involved with Sustainable Cayman, or if you would like to support our podcast, you can email us at ambassador@sustainablecayman.org. For real-time updates and engaging content, you can also follow us on Instagram at sustainableky, on Facebook at sustainable.cayman, and on TikTok at sustainablecayman.